Niddah Daf Samach Aleph. Almost as we had yesterday in the Mishnah, 3 women sleeping in the same bed. That Mishnah was referring to 3 women that were touching each other. In our Mishnah, they were not touching each other, they have space. However, during the night, people tend to roll around, and therefore, the person right next to the one that we find the dam will also be tamei, because perhaps the dam came from her. So if the woman in the center found dam, all 3 are tamei. If the woman by the wall found dam, then she's tamei, and the one right next to her is tamei, the center one. If the woman on the outside of the bed found dam, then she's tamei, and the center one is tamei. But the one by the wall would be tar, provided that the one by the wall climbed into the bed through the foot of the bed and didn't climb over her friends, because if she climbed over her friends, then she perhaps was the one with the dam, and all 3 are tamei. If one of the women checked herself and didn't see dam, we assume that she's tar, her friends are tamei. If 2 of them checked, there's no dam, they are both tar, the third one is tamei. If all 3 checked and they couldn't find dam, since we can't attribute the dam to any one of them, therefore all 3 are tamei. Now there's a similar case, but there's a machlokes in this case, and that is, if there are 3 heaps, 3 piles of, let's say, garbage, and inside one of the piles there's a kazayis of a mace, and you checked one pile and did not find the kazayis mace, that pile is tar. You checked the second pile, you couldn't find it, the second pile is tar as well. But if you check all 3 piles and you can't find it, then all 3 piles become tamei according to Remeir, because Remeir holds that there's a chazaka, that there's tumah in one of the piles, and you don't know how to get rid of the chazaka, therefore all 3 are tamei. Say chachamim, but at the end of the day I checked, I did not find the tumah. I went all the way down to the hard ground. Therefore, we must say that there was tumah here, but a bird came and removed the tumah. Unlike the case where there was dam by one of these women, over there we know for a fact that there was dam, and we can't associate, we can't attribute to anybody. The Gemara brings there's 2 stories where there was a rumor that there was tumah, someone was buried under a tree, and in a completely different story, somebody was rumored to be buried in a cave. They checked the tree, they checked the cave and couldn't find the tumah, but in later years, the tree fell down and they found a skull, a human skull. And they also found remains in the cave. Says the Gemara, it's not a raya, over there they didn't check well, and that's why they found it later on. But in our case, they checked really well in those piles of garbage and they couldn't find the tumah, therefore you could say that it's tahar. There was a story by Selah Beis Chayram, very tough ground, very large, and there was a rumor that there was a buried body there. Says Rabbi Yeshua ben Chanina that I have an eitzah. Let's take a sheet, soak it in water, and spread it on the field. Wherever you see moisture on the ground, that means that the soil is soft, and perhaps that's where the burial ground is. Anywhere that there's no moisture, there's no one buried there. In fact, they found the burial ground, and in the burial ground they found 80 remains. Says the Gemara, these are the remains from the story from Gedalia ben Achikam. What happened was, he was told by Yochanan that Yishmael wants to kill him, but he didn't want to accept the Lashon Hara. In fact, he invited Yishmael over for a meal, and during the meal, Yishmael killed him and killed 80 other people. The Torah attributes their deaths, their 80 deaths, to Gedalia, because Gedalia didn't take the proper measures to protect those 80 people. You see a big insight. If you're warned about something and you don't listen to the warning, then the Torah is going to blame you. Says Rava, the famous Gemara that's brought a lot in the Chavetz Chaim, even though Lashon Hara is asur to accept, but the meichash mibai, you have to be concerned. In other words, you don't think about the person that you heard Lashon Hara about, you don't think about him in a different way, yet you have to be careful when it comes to whatever they told you about. Says the Gemara, for instance, the Bnei Galila, there was a rumor that they killed someone, and they came to Reb Tarfon that he should hide them. Said Reb Tarfon very smartly, he said, listen, you guys are probably right, I need to hide you. And you have to hide, because if you don't hide, you'll be killed by the authorities. But I can't hide you because I heard a rumor about you. And says Rashi, it's us for me to hide you. According to Tosfos, he was concerned for his own life. So therefore, hide yourselves. Gemara says, Oig and Sichain were brothers. Yet the Torah says that Moshe Rabbeinu was scared of Oig and not of Sichain. And the reason is, and Akash Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, Al Tiro. Why is that? Because Moshe Rabbeinu was concerned that Oig had schusim because he helped Avraham Avinu with light when they came and they captured light. Anytime there's a kesem, a stain on a beged, you have to be toivel in the mikvah. But before you toivel, you have to be mevatel the kesem. As we're going to see in the following Mishnah tomorrow, there's 7 detergents that you put on it and you mevatel the kesem. Now, what if you can't find the kesem? Instead of doing a spat stain remover, you have to soak the entire beged in these 7 detergents. Rav Shimon Elazar says you don't have to do so. What you do is you check the beged 3 fingers by 3 fingers at a time, and if you don't find anything, then you don't have to wash it at all. If you have shikva zera on the beged, it's the same halacha. You have to be toivel the beged, but before you toivel, you have to remove the shikva zera. If it's a brand new beged which is very thick, so the shikva zera goes in, it's hard to see it. You can't put it up to the sun, so you use a needle, and when the needle stops, then you know that's where the shikva zera is. If it's an older beged which is worn out, you can put it up to the sun, and you can see where the shikva zera is. If you have a beged that has shatnez in it, it's wool and linen, but you don't know where, for instance, the wool is. You're trying to take it out, you don't know where it is. The halacha is, typically when you have a beged of shatnez, you could sell it to a goy, and you could use it as a saddle. In this case, since it's hard to discern where the shatnez is, you can't sell it to a goy, because perhaps the goy will sell it to a Jew, and the Jew won't be able to see it as well. And you can't use it as a saddle, because perhaps you'll use the saddle, you'll cut off a piece and use it. However, says the Gemara, you're allowed to use it for tachrich and for a mace. Says Rav Yosef, from here you see that once a person dies, he no longer has mitzvahs, otherwise you wouldn't be able to bury him with tachrichim, because a person, when he gets up for tchis hamesim, he's going to be wearing the same clothing as he wore when you buried him. Rav Yanai says you're allowed to do a hesped while he wears tachrichim of shatnez, but not bury him. Rav Yochanan says you're allowed to bury him. In fact, Rav Yochanan brings a pasuk, ba'mesim chavshi, once a person is dead, he's chavshi, he's free from all mitzvahs. Rav Chizah says if you have a beged of klein that you lost, the shatnez in there, what you do is you dye it. And since it's different material, wool and linen receives the dye differently, it absorbs the dye differently, therefore you'll be able to tell where the shatnez is. And he brings a proof from our Mishnah that when you have a pile of garbage and inside you have tumas meis, if you check it thoroughly, you could discern, you could say that there's no tumah in this thing. So over here also there's no tumah in this, there's no shatnez in this beged. Mar Zutra says the word shatnez is comprised of 3 words, shua, tavi, and oif. You have to weave, spin, and put it together all in one. According to Rashi, you have to make each string together. The shatnez, the tzemer pishtim, the wool and the linen have to be created together, each thread. Since in our case, they weren't created like that, you just put in a thread later on, so it's only the rabbanan. So if you try to remove it, even though you didn't get all of it, or perhaps you left some of it in there, min the rabbanan, it's okay. But Rav Ashi says the word shatnez means those 3 things. Shua, tavi, v'nois. All you need is 1 out of the 3, and that's a d'oraisa. Now there's a machlekes if a colored clothing could receive a kesem or not. According to Reb Nosson, there's no kesem on colored clothing, and according to Tanakama, there is. Because there's no gzeira by pumos shel aspasionos. Then when they were seizing Yerushalayim, there's a seize on Yerushalayim, they said no atris chasonim and no instrument called irus, but they said that women could wear colored clothing because it'll give them a kula when it comes to ksomim. Have a wonderful day.